I choose the meat pill. Well, a warm welcome to you all. This video is our Carnivore Benefits Matrix. You're going to want to watch this. I'm JJ, I'm a life coach, and I eat mostly meat.
I'm Eric, I'm a novelist, and I eat beef, bacon, butter, eggs, and coffee. And today, we're going to go through a checklist or matrix of the many benefits we've derived from carnivore, and we're going to see which ones JJ has experienced and which ones I have experienced. And of course, at any time, you can leave a comment and say, hey, there's ones you left off that you've experienced.
Please do.
So we're going to get right into it. So my first category is body recomposition. So the first item is muscle definition increase.
I have more muscle definition than I have ever had in my entire life, even when I was a young girl dancing a lot.
And the same is true for me, although I was never a young girl dancing.
No?
A lot, no. But in my adolescent years, I wasn't doughy. I was just kind of probably skinny fat. And then into my 20s, I just didn't have any definition to speak of.
I had very muscular legs, but with the dance, but they were just sort of a bulkier. There was not that definition.
Yeah. And I did lots of working out throughout my 30s and 40s. I had a personal trainer for a while, but I never matched it up with a diet that worked for me. And now I have.
Yeah.
Okay, body fat reduction.
Oh, yes.
Kind of is the corollary to the previous one.
Oh, yes. I just looked. I think I was about a 35% body fat when I started. And now I am down to about 26%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely have lost body fat. I've lost it many times, but never got to like real definition. And now I'm getting to real definition. And of course, the areas of my body that store the least fat have lost
Of course.
the most noticeable amount of fat. So like my legs, which never carried much,
Yeah.
are much more defined now. And my arms. My abdomen will be the very last thing. I will probably lose scalp fat before I lose abdominal fat. But that's just the way it goes.
But the interesting thing to me is not only has there been body fat reduction, but it's been sustainable. So even though we've had more to go throughout our journey in the last couple of years, we haven't gained. There hasn't been the roller coaster ride that there has been in the past.
No, at most it was a plateau for me.
Yeah, me too.
Clothing size down.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I was a snug size 12 when I started. Now I'm buying size 4. I just measured myself, and one thing I was a size 2. Which I've never seen before. I didn't order the size 2 because I just can't believe it. But we'll see when the shorts come if they actually fit. So,
okay.
Yeah, so size 4, I kind of would eke into in my teenage years sometimes. I was mostly a size 6 and then size 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my clothes size are down. I always wore a large t-shirt. And eventually they were so baggy, I was like, these feel voluminous. So I ordered a medium in some brand.
Yeah.
And it just fit comfortably. And in the past, it was always tenting at the pot belly that always kind of bothered me, and a tightness under the arms. And so my beautiful Harry Mack shirt is now a little too loose.
Oh. I'm glad you sized down, and it's amazing. You've never worn a medium since we've been together, really.
And it's not like Simon Cowell wearing the baby t-shirt.
No, it's not. It looks good. And I feel like we both hung on to baggy clothes for longer than we've had to.
I put on jeans this morning because the house is super cold at night because I have the AC turned down to Arctic levels.
Yes.
And I hadn't worn this particular pair in a long time, and they were ridiculous clown pants.
Yeah.
So those have got to be donated.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put a yes there.
Absolutely.
So obviously that means our measurements are down.
Yes. And I can give you my waist when I started was a generous 31 inches. I would say it was probably more like 31 and a half. And my waist is now down to 27. My hips were 41, and they are not. Wait, did I say that right? 27. Did I say 37? Basically, I was waist 31 and a half, hips 41. Now I am waist 27, hips 37.
Okay. So that's good. That's a lot of inches.
That's a lot of inches. And again, for me, a 37-inch hip is crazy town good. Yeah.
Well, I don't really know what my measurements were because I don't take them. And men's pant sizes are, what do they call that? Where they make a size 32 actually like a 34.
Vanity
sizing. I couldn't remember the term. So I'm now probably a 32 waist like I was when I was 17. But I just put on the pants I have. And I don't think about what the actual measurements are, but I'm sure my measurements are much lower. Yeah. Although I don't know about the arms. They might have hulked out a little bit.
That is definitely a bigger measurement. Your shoulders are bigger.
That's true, yeah.
Too. You definitely have more of that V shape than you've ever had before for a man, yeah.
Yep. Weight is down.
I'm down 30 pounds.
Whoa.
Yes.
And that's true for me. I am down 20. Actually, as of this morning, I was down 26 pounds.
Nice.
So whether that'll lock in or not, I don't know, but I'm guessing it will. Now that I'm doing my time-restricted eating. Mm-hmm. Let's move on to skin and hair.
Mm-hmm.
So less redness, rosacea.
Absolutely, for me. I have much less redness. And ironically, I could not wear makeup for years because of sensitive eyes and even sensitive skin. And now I can wear makeup, but I don't need it as much as far as evening out the skin tone.
Where was your redness mostly?
Right in this cheek area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think my redness is reduced, but I'm quite tan this year because of being out in the sun mowing for millions of hours. But, we kind of talked about it, and I think there is some reduced redness in my face because I have a scar on my cheek from a skin lesion that I had removed last year.
Yeah.
And that seems to continue to reduce on this diet. So I'm going to give myself a yes, but it's a more tentative yes than JJ's.
Yeah, mine is a yes.
And also, I tend to not look at myself in the mirror very much because I don't put on makeup and I try not to scrutinize it. Because anytime I look in the mirror, I kind of see my dad, which isn't my favorite thing. I loved my dad, but I don't want to look like my dad. Clearer skin.
I have fortunately not had bad skin since I gave up gluten pretty much.
Yeah.
But I definitely have fewer little random pimples and things. Yeah. So
it's hard for me to say because as I grew out of adolescence, my skin cleared up and it continued through the decades. But I will say that when I cracked down 5-6 weeks ago on carnivore, I had a bit of a reversal that then since cleared up. But that would be to be expected, right? If some toxin release or something.
Exactly. And same for me. I had too much dairy. I'm okay with dairy most of the time, but this day I had way too much. And sure enough, I had a couple. Yeah.
Interesting. I'm giving myself a lowercase yes.
Oh, I like the lowercase
for that one
designation.
Because it's a difference that doesn't really have a whole lot of difference. Reduced puffiness.
You were just looking at an old photo roll. Oh, yes. Much reduced puffiness. Much more reduced.
And where did you carry your puffiness mostly?
Well, I'm looking at face.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's hard to say because of the fat loss.
Well, what's the distinction between puffiness and just fatter face?
I think puffiness is more variable.
Mm-hmm.
So there are days when when one is more puffy and less puffy. I don't know.
Well, I think that when I tightened up carnivore, I noticed it within days.
Yes.
There was just something about the texture of the surface of the skin that had less variability and was a little toned or tighter. I can't explain it more than that because I don't have the language for it.
Well, yeah, and that's true too around the jawline. Again, but is that fat? I don't know.
It's probably something that you notice on close inspection of the mirror, and maybe is more of an impression that other people, if they haven't seen you for weeks, are like, oh, you look better rested. Who knows? I'm going to give myself a lowercase y for that. Stronger fingernails.
So for me, I have very bad fingernails, have my whole life. And I would give myself a lowercase y on this because my toenails have gotten much better. Oh, yay. That's what I wanted, was better toenails here in Wisconsin, where we wear closed-toed shoes most of the year. But I will notice, like, my nails used to break if I looked at them wrong, my fingernails. And they are, while they're still not great, they are much better. I actually have to file them more instead of just having them tear off randomly. So again, I don't have great nails, but I've seen an improvement.
I'm going to give myself a no for this one because I already had Wolverine fingernails.
Ridiculous.
Extremely thick, strong, fast-growing fingernails.
Well-shaped. I mean, it's just
kind of annoying because I have to trim them frequently.
Yeah, so annoying.
It's not that, it doesn't mean that they never break, but yeah. But I don't know if my toenails have gotten stronger because of carnivore, or just because I'm older, because a lot of men tend to get disgusting thick toenails as they get older. We get the Howard Hughes toenail going. I do try to trim mine occasionally.
I hope so.
If they're causing wounds to other people. I just saw or read a discussion about men's toenails giving women the ick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And I can understand
Well,
that.
you don't want them too long, too. And a lot of men, they're just grooming is
less than ideal.
Is less than ideal, and they don't have maybe the strong fingernails or toenails. Yeah. So if men's toenails give you the ick, put it in the comments.
Also, you can say something to them and saying, that's giving me the ick, get on that, and they might do something about it. Less gray hair.
You have no hair.
I was asking you about your hair, but we'll go there.
Well, you have said you think there is less gray hair for me, and I did have one other person say that they think my hair is less gray as well. So it's hard to tell because it's ash blonde. It's been ash blonde for my whole life, but we do think that it's less gray hair.
Should we go with a lowercase?
Let's do a lowercase.
We'll do a lowercase yes. We can just say not applicable.
Yeah.
Applicable?
Both, I think, are okay.
Either case, it isn't applicable.
No.
On my head.
No.
Sunburn resistance.
I am not willing to claim that. I don't think I've seen a difference, but if I spend all day in the sun, I've always gotten a little pink. I haven't had a lot of sunburn issues, but I think it might be better, but I don't know. So we're just
going to say
yeah.
Dash. Oops. It found a typo. Uh-oh. It's Excel. It doesn't want two minuses.
No, it doesn't.
Let's do quotes dash. There. My Excel expertise is very atrophied. I went from doing pivot tables and all kinds of fancy stuff in my previous life, and now it's just basically a matrix creator for our video.
Yeah.
Okay, so sunburn resistance, I am going to give that a capital Y for yes. It is quite remarkable. I was a huge skeptic of this one, and now I believe. And
you would spend most of your time in the shade. Like, you did not want to be in the sun ever.
I still don't like sitting out in the sun because I just get way too hot. Mm-hmm. But it was used to also because I didn't want to get burned. Yeah. And now I don't worry about the burning side of it. IBS, we're in gut health now.
Gut health.
IBS gone.
I'm one of those people who does not have a lot of gut issues, even though I had possible celiac. It didn't show up that way. So this is NA for me.
So this is a capital Y, yes.
Oh, yes.
And
your gut health was my issue. And not in the way it sounds, like just in your suffering with it. Yeah. You're suffering it with it.
I'm not a stoic sufferer like she is. And I don't know why that is. It's just how I'm designed.
NA for me, I no acid reflux.
This is a yes for me.
Now, bloating, I would have said that I didn't really have many issues with bloating. I mean, obviously on occasion. But the truth is, when you eat mostly meat, when you're on the carnivore diet, you realize often that you were in a constant state of low-level bloat and you didn't even know it. So maybe for me, this is a lowercase y. It wasn't an issue before, but I did definitely have that low-level plant bloat.
Yeah, what she said. I'll just expand on it saying that what becomes the normal sensation of gut is not normal.
Yes.
Normal has a totally different, lighter, relaxed feel to it than what people who eat SAD diet normally are experiencing. I would have bloat doing keto because the salad that I was eating, Alan, was causing me problems, even though I was like, well, it couldn't be the salad. All those leafy greens are good for me. Mm-hmm. And the olive oil and all the stuff that I put on it. And so even though I was feeling something that didn't make sense given what I was eating, I couldn't ascribe blame where it belonged because the cognitive dissonance was too high. Mm-hmm. So the bloating on pure carnivore, now that I've gotten the dairy out, I even before that, I had a little bit that I wasn't appreciating was there until it was gone.
Yeah.
And that reminds me of the Cinderella song, You Don't Know What You've Got Till It's Gone.
Oh, I just saw the play Cinderella, so that threw me for a loop for a second. I was like, Cinderella never says that.
Yeah,
But
I just realized that reference might have been lost on a whole bunch of people if you don't know the rock band Cinderella or that particular song. Okay, gas, gone.
yes. And again, I wouldn't say I was a extremely gassy girl, but it's amazing.
Yeah, based on the food you eat. It's incredible. And it doesn't seem like it would matter, but I can tell you the quality of life. What was that diet where I was eating what were those little lentil beans?
Oh, yes. Yes.
I was having lentils. I think it was the slow carb diet.
That was it.
That was the Tim Ferriss thing. And he really emphasized eating lentils because there's a lot of protein in it. But man, my gut flora, every time I had lentils, that was like an all-day fiesta. And an all-night just problem.
Well, and what's interesting is we both come from a history of having fathers who were just very gassy and proud of it, maybe. I don't know. So we didn't have that in our household where we were just letting it rip, letting it fly. So it's very nice to not be experiencing that.
So I've got a little section on autoimmune. I have and since I've been like 21, I've had a recurrent rash on my arm. And it arises during times of stress. And then in the past, kind of repeatedly, like it would have an onset, it would happen, it would go away, and then it would come right back. And then I could go for months without a recurrence. Mm-hmm. Since carnivore, I've had maybe 2 of those outbreaks, and they've been under stress or during adaptation to carnivore, where the body was undergoing a stressor due to the change in diet. Mm-hmm. So for this one, this has been a huge benefit, a huge improvement for me.
I don't have a recurrent rash.
So this is an NA for you. Mm-hmm. Low platelets would be an NA for you. Yeah. I have thrombocytopenia. The hematologist did some sort of test, and she's like, it's an autoimmune thing. My particular levels are lower than the reference range, but they're not in any sort of danger zone. I don't have to do anything except for just monitor it a few times a year. And she said, if you're going to go into a major surgery, you should probably have it checked out first. This is one I have not seen any change or my platelets have been slightly lower than usual. I don't draw any conclusions about this one way or the other. And I don't necessarily think carnivores necessarily made it worse. But I'm going to have to give this one an N. Yep. I'm hopeful. Maybe someday the healing will happen and I'll get improvement on that regard. Okay, mental health. Anxiety reduced.
Now, we went through this before we started recording. I've never had issues with anxiety when I think about how you would define anxiety and your experiences with having panic attacks and so, or what, right? Panic attacks, you'd say. So I didn't have, I feel like it should be an NA with a little asterisk. You don't have to put the asterisk. I get stressed. Like for me, I get very stressed when I've got too much going on. And my stress, which is like maybe a low-level form of anxiety, is way reduced. But again, I've never had that anxiety. I would call it stress.
So let's just do NA, but lowercase y.
Well, I don't want to give the impression that I suffered from that mental health issue, because I wouldn't say I had anxiety. The diagnosis of anxiety would have never been there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to give this one a large Y, small y. Because the early phases of carnivore dramatically reduced my anxiety. When I tightened up carnivore, it was partly because I was having some more anxiety episodes arising, nothing like they were in the past. And then afterwards, it got a little worse, and now it seems to maybe be getting a little bit better. So I think the overall baseline is lower for anxiety, but it's not eliminated for me. But now that I've tightened up carnivore, I'm going to spend more time eating more fats, try to get deeper ketosis. This time-restricted eating window should give me some deeper ketosis and see what happens. But I do not feel like it is harming my basic quality of life. When
the anxiety,
when these things arise, I have the tools and abilities to just kind of relax into it a bit. So I'm giving it a lowercase y right now, and I'm hopeful to get back to an uppercase Y shortly. Depression.
I talked previously on a video about I haven't had my last episode of depression since 2017, but I talked about this cliff. And so how close am I to the cliff? And even though I haven't been down the cliff, I've seen the cliff since 2017. Since carnivore, there is no cliff. So I would say, would that be a Y?
I think it's
lower.
I think it's lowercase y.
Yeah. All right.
Because if you're approaching the cliff, you're able to see it because you're already feeling some effects.
Yes, I definitely. Yeah.
It's a gradient.
Yeah.
Towards the cliff, and then there's the fall off, and you're on the gradient. Then I think we can say that. And I'm going to give this a resounding Y.
NA for me. I have not been on an SSRI.
And this is a yes. And oops. And I'll say that getting off the SSRI, as I've mentioned before, I wasn't having super side effects that I was aware of, but those types of things can build over time. And my understanding is that if you're on it for decades, getting off of it can be harder, or they begin to lose their effectivity. And I never ran into it losing its effectiveness, and I'm grateful for that. But psychologically, ironically, taking the SSRI weighed on me. Every time I took it, I just felt like some internal discontent and dissatisfaction with having to do that, and a sense of maybe being a little trapped by it. And with carnivore, being able to wean off of it and be fine is just hugely satisfying. So I'm giving that a big yes.
Big yes, yeah.
Brain fog reduced.
Yes, brain fog is reduced.
And how did your brain fog manifest?
For me, it is really around not being able to concentrate, not being able to think. Yeah, I guess that's all I would say.
Just sort of cognitive sharpness?
Yeah, was very decreased. Again, it had gotten better since I gave up gluten. Like, it's a gradient, like you just said. So I didn't realize how much sharper I could be. And not only that, but it's length of time. Just before Carnivore, my brain would shut down at about 7:30. And now it does, which is during our rehearsals when I'm working with the theater group. Yay. I'd be ready to totally like just sit comatose in the couch. But now I have no problem going through the full day. So it does not level or go down as the day goes on.
So I don't think I experienced brain fog the way that you describe it.
Okay.
I tend to think in terms of malaise, which is more about energy and an unwillingness to do thinking, but not an inability to do thinking. So I'm not sure it's the exact same thing, or maybe it is. I'm going to give this a lowercase n because regardless, my brain feels pretty much the same. So I haven't had an up-leveling of mental acuity or cognitive computing power that I've noticed. Peace and contentment.
This is a capital Y for me. I regularly experience carnivore bliss, and mood is just way better than it ever has been in my life as long as I can remember.
Can you expand on that? What is that sensation like in your body?
In my body, you look at me, like in my body, it feels like a gentle rolling boil. I was going to say bubbling, but it's not like highly activated.
That's not peace, contentment isn't highly
No, but there isn't a reactivity like to things going on around me. I'm less reactive, and it's just this, peace, contentment. There's less stress, as I mentioned before, but I'm like, I want to dance. Like, you see me in the kitchen sometimes kicking my legs and stuff. I just feel all within me is just well.
So it's a sense of well-being.
Well-being, yes, that's a good way of putting it.
Imperturbability.
Yeah.
Which is not the case, by the way. She is perturbable.
Yes, it is true. But most of the time, that's the
But you
thing.
can buffer the perturbations.
Yeah, there's more resilience. There's less brain chatter.
Is there a greater sense, positive emotions like love and, well, you said happiness before.
Yeah.
You just have a greater sense of
Yeah.
those positive emotions?
Yeah, I would say that I just was in neutral most of the time. In sort of neutral emotions. And now it's definitely more the positive side.
Interesting. Because you could, coming from an anxious frame, there would be a distinction between being content and peaceful and numb.
Right. I've had numb before.
And this is not numb.
This is not numb. No.
Okay.
Definitely not numb. Not numb. My phrase for numb is why bother?
Oh, okay.
And there's no sense of why bother because everything is like just...
Okay. I'm going to give this a no in capital letters. I don't feel peace and contentment for more than 5 minutes at a time. And part of that is if I notice that I'm feeling peaceful and content, I ruin it.
I've done that.
By noticing it, yeah.
Yeah, I've done that.
But I would say that the absence of peace/contentment doesn't mean that I'm necessarily unhappy, and it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm anxious to the degree that I used to be. But I just have I think it might just be my temperament. is just there's an underlying dissatisfaction.
Well, that may or may not be your
Maybe that will dissolve.
Yeah, I don't know.
And it's a dissatisfaction that isn't necessarily pessimistic. I think of myself as extraordinarily optimistic. But I think that's probably why I'm dissatisfied all the time, is that it's not as good as I expect. It can be.
Well, I have also done a lot of work on expectations. That is like lesson number 1 in life coaching school is expectation work. And so yeah.
So it could be a psychological problem.
So no, but I'm just saying and expectations are normal for humans to have. It's how we move through the world with any sense of stability at all or certainty. And yet I feel like since I've been doing carnivore, the level of my normal expectation has gone down. So there's less expectation. Yeah.
Okay. Very, very good. So memory recall improvements.
I think this is maybe an NA for you. Were going to type something before I started saying something.
No, I was just reaching for the end.
Okay. Because maybe you noticed something. I have a pretty good memory for most things, and then other things.
She could always remember phone numbers instantly.
Yeah. So.
But she also would have like some sort of pattern building memory palace thing automatically in order to associate numbers with something else to help anchor that. And then she would explain it to me. I'm like, that's insane.
Yeah.
But I feel my memory, short-term memory, has improved. And the reason I think this is because whenever you have to log in and they're going to text you a code and it's 6 digits long, I used to get frazzled going, I've got to remember these 6 digits. And then I would do the thing of, no, I'll just have it up on my phone or watch and then I'll type it in. And then I would be like, I should be able to remember 6 digits for 3 seconds. And now I can without having to struggle with it. I just automatically can break it down into 2 sets of 3 and hold them successfully.
Nice.
So that is a definite improvement for me. And I have a lack of interest for remembering numbers and mathematics or anything related to it. I was able to do it when I had to for homework, but I could never make myself even remotely interested in any number that wasn't a measure of my health or finances. So I'm going to say yes to this one. All right, let's go to fitness, strength increase.
I'm giving that a yes. I don't exercise regularly. It's pretty sporadic, but we've got our system, our exercise system, or whatever you want to call it. It gives you personal records. And so every time I go and do something, I get a personal record on my weight training. And again, I'm not doing anything consistently. So I don't know how I keep getting these PRs, but I keep getting them.
So that's good.
Yeah.
At age 53.
Yeah. And I can just carry things better. There's that type of thing. Whip the logs around.
Yeah.
All that sort of thing.
Maybe I'll splice in her doing log splitting. Not with an axe, but you probably could do it with an axe with some practice. But the things you're able to lift when I'm not around was always kind of surprising. But now you can just actually lift more things. Yes, for me, strength increase. I don't set PRs every single time, but like yesterday, I was doing a leg workout and I was basically getting to maxing out the machine. So if I'm going to continue to make progress, at some point I'm going to have to switch to free weights, which we can't do in the current property, but in the new one, we might find a spot where I can have some.
But you exercise consistently and have been able to exercise pretty consistently on this without injury.
Yep.
Yeah.
And part of that is reducing duration and volume to be not stupid. But part of it is also just feeding the system with the nutrients it needs. Endurance increase.
Oh, yes. I've talked about my exercise intolerance in the past, and really that's activity intolerance, where if I do too much, I'm just still, even though I'm so much better than I was in my 30s, I still feel it and feel drained. And I rarely feel drained with activity, like all the work we do on the property.
Of course.
Yeah.
And one of the benefits of that is that being fat adapted and not relying on carbs, you never end up hitting that sugar crash because you just have ready fuel for a day's work. Which isn't to say the next day you don't need to rest, because we do.
Yeah.
But that relates to this one, recover faster.
And again, I'm going to say yes, because I'm not just laid out for days. My body's ready to do activity quicker.
And I'm going to give this one a yes. And this is, I recover faster than I did when I was working out in my 30s and 40s. But that's because of consuming a massive amount of protein every single day, where I was underfeeding protein in the past.
Protein? What protein?
yeah.
I would have said in the past.
Okay, joints. Back pain reduced.
That's an NA for me.
This is a yes for me, and that's probably from anti-inflammatory diet and just overall better strength and fitness.
Yeah.
Shoulder pain reduced.
NA for me.
And for me, this is a yes. I've alternately had the left and right, those are the two shoulders people typically have, be tweaked to where there is constant pain or lifting pain, and they are, watch what I can do.
I remember
They're great.
Before we were dating when you had a shoulder issue.
Yeah, I had my separated shoulder.
Yes. And I remember you're like, here, feel it. And I had never touched you before, because you kind of put off a bubble of don't touch me. Not that I would have, but And so it was kind of like, oh, wow, I'm in the inner circle, even though we weren't dating yet, if I'm allowed to touch you.
Yeah, I don't remember which shoulder it was. I think it's this
either.
one, because there's usually a very visible separation here. And
So point being, that's a long-term.
yeah, that's
shoulders have been a long time.
very much.
Yeah.
Hand pain reduced.
NA.
You're not a very painful person.
No.
And I am. And this is a yes, no.
Oh, yeah,
When
it's
I
a yes, no.
originally went into carnivore, I had long-term stiffness and pain in my hands, and it was like 95% improved. And then I do my eliminate dairy thing, and hand pain back. And it was worse than it is now, because I was having muscle twitches and all kinds of things. It really is pointing to oxalate dumping is my number one suspect.
And again, skeptical about oxalate dumping.
I'm a huge skeptic, but I have no other explanation.
Yeah, very interesting. Ankle pain is mine. I was in an accident when I was about 20 and sprained my ankle. The tendon was stretched during that situation, and I was told it would never repair. It would just need to be, if it got too bad with slippage, I would need to have surgery. And I was considering, I hadn't talked to you about it yet because it wasn't quite there, but I was like, do I have surgery now while I'm younger? Mm-hmm. Or do I wait till I really can't walk on this ankle much more? And somehow it is like 90% better. It rarely slips. And again, that's supposedly not possible without surgery. So I don't know what happened there, but it was daily pain.
Well, it seems to me that what's not possible in the view of the medical profession is, it really means I've never seen it happen. And that translates to, I've never dealt with this problem in a carnivore before.
Wow, that's kind of profound. I've never dealt with this problem in a carnivore before. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Blood labs, A1C reduced.
This is a yes, no.
Yes, no. Tell me more.
So I am one of those people who has seen an increase in my blood glucose on carnivore. So initially I started carnivore. Everything went down as far as blood sugar A1C, and then it has crept back up again. I'm told by the carnivore doctors, don't worry about it. I still kind of worry. I've also heard that it will still regulate out maybe eventually, and we'll see, but it is creeping up a little bit. I am still not pre-diabetic. I think it was like a 5.3 or 5.4 on my last. So again, not getting bad, but I don't like it see it going up.
Yeah. And maybe it'll be just a natural variability.
Maybe.
When I hear you talk about that, I think of Dr. Bob Sivas, who has his theory of insulin suppression that I know a lot of the other docs don't agree with.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, I know what you're saying.
And based on some podcast he was on, that I remember him saying that he sometimes advises those carnivores to add milk, as he says. You're never going to add milk.
No.
Because you don't like it to start with. Plus, why would you introduce the carbs that are in it?
Yeah.
But I think his view is you add a little bit more carbs and then you get a little more insulin triggering to keep the pancreas making it. I don't have a stake in that theory because I know that a lot of people say, well, the blood cells just are living longer and that's skewing the measure.
Well, and that's good for A1C.
Yeah.
That's the thing that gets me is the doctors usually address the A1C saying the blood cells live longer, but they don't. They often do not talk about the blood sugar. They sort of gloss over that. Although I know Judy Cho did a video. I watched it recently on that, and I don't even remember.
Because your blood sugars are testing higher.
Yes, they're usually around 100.
Okay.
Yeah, which is not what one wants to see.
No, you would think as a carnivore, you'd see them down like 70, 65,
Right.
80 or something like that.
No. That said, I am going to put on a continuous glucose monitor this fall. I'm just waiting for summer to be done. I don't want one on in the summer.
Marring your beautiful lithe arms.
Well, I go swimming, and my friend wouldn't care, and our kids wouldn't care, but I'm just going to hold off on the questioning.
So I'm going to give this a yes. My A1C never got super high, but I think it tested at 5.6 at the very highest, which I wasn't comfortable with at the time. And more recently was 5.1.
Yeah, that's nice.
Fasting insulin reduced.
This is a yes, no. Same thing. Same issue. Yeah, I don't know why those numbers go up.
This one is yes for me. I think it last tested at a 4 or something.
And again, I want to state I'm not in the danger zone. Like, it's not going crazy.
It was like 7 or something.
Yeah, it was a 7. And but you don't want to see that. Not when you were down at like a 4.
And it could just be that your body is just producing more glucose or glycogen, whatever it is, because it just has decided to, in its search for homeostasis, that's what it needs.
Yeah. And I wish I could be satisfied with that.
And maybe those blood sugar levels, given your diet, aren't actually a problem.
Because doctors don't usually see them in carnivores.
Yeah, that's always a thing you can kind of turn to.
Yeah.
But of course, it's an unknown.
Yeah.
Triglycerides reduced.
Yes. This is a small y.
Small y.
Yep.
This is a new
Yeah,
for me.
it is.
Triglycerides went bonkers on carnivore. My last test was this spring sometime, maybe March, February, I can't remember. And I don't even remember what the numbers were. It was 200 or something ridiculous.
Yeah, it was high. It was unexpected. And again.
And the doctor said, well, we could cut out more carbs. And I'm like, there's no more carbs to cut out. So that's not the issue.
No, it is not the issue. So again, it's a thing where do you just practice patience? Is this eating window going to help? Who knows?
ChatGPT says, well, eat less fat. Well, that doesn't help me. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm not super worried about it. HDL increased.
Small y.
Small y.
Yep. These numbers have changed just a small amount, and those were not too bad. It's my LDL That's always been kind of
I didn't
bad.
even put LDL on
Right.
here.
We're not discussing that, but when you look at total cholesterol or whatever, it's always been my LDL more so than HDL or triglycerides. They're fine. They've always been kind of okay.
I need to give this a superscript Y or make the font smaller because it's a very small Y.
Yeah, yours is very small.
Very typically, my HDL would be 33, 35, 36. And now it's like 40, 42. So it's an improvement, but it's not where I'd like it. And there does seem to be a relationship that I need to get, trigs have to be at a certain lower level for HDL to increase. There's some relationship between them. I don't totally understand. But that's where that is at.
Yeah, your blood labs have been not great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Blood pressure normalized.
This is an NA for me.
Oh, because your blood pressure was always better than everybody's?
My blood pressure has always been decent. I had a period of high blood pressure on the carnivore diet, but it was related to going hyperthyroid because I was taking too much medication, which we'll get to in a moment. So yeah, but overall, no blood pressure issues.
This is a yes for me. Mine was mildly elevated. In the doctor's office, it was wildly elevated, but at home, you would usually test normal-ish. But now in the doctor's office, it's still elevated, but not wildly. So everything is notched down to normality.
And you've monitored it at home to know that it's good.
Yeah. Anytime I go to my primary care doc, I try to go in armed with a week's worth of blood pressure measurements because they're going to blood pressure cuff me some stupid number. And he's so appreciative. He's like, oh, thanks. This is great. Looks good. Keep doing what you're doing. Kidney function improved.
NA for me.
I had mildly elevated kidney creatinine in particular. And the doc was always like, well, you taking creatine because that can help? I'm like, no. And I'm like, I'm carnivore, so I'm eating a lot of protein. He's like, well, that could do it, but this predated it. But it was never terrible. And all my other kidney function markers were pretty good. But this last time around, I was taking creatine and eating carnivore, and my creatinine number was excellent.
Nice.
And so he's like, that's double good. So I'm giving that a Y. But there was a period where he was a little concerned, and we had to do a cystatin C. It was like a more fine-tuned check, and that turned out to be fine. So no kidney issues. Medication, thyroid meds reduced.
Okay, this is what I was talking about. Yes, I started to go hyperthyroid on carnivore and needed to get my meds reduced for thyroid. I am hypothyroid. I am not autoimmune Hashimoto's, just hypothyroid, like most women in this country. Strange, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Your HRT stuff?
Yes, that has also been, my doctor has been able to reduce my testosterone and my progesterone. Both have reduced, and I think it's due to better hormonal balance with that big hormone at the beginning being insulin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Miscellaneous, snoring reduced.
You've said yes for me.
Yes, because you're asleep, you don't know it, but your snoring has reduced.
And yes for you as well. You were never a big snorer.
Small Y or
No, but
full Y?
it's a full Y. You were never a big snorer, but you did have a little snore when you were in that 200-pound mark seemed to be when that.
I think I was starting to have some apnea when I was at 205 because if I slept on my back, I would wake up choking occasionally. Not a good sign.
No.
But we mouth tape, and so it makes it harder to have those issues.
But we have mouth taped for years,
Yeah.
and there was still snoring happening for both of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Again, not horrible.
Bad breath eliminated.
Well, you've said yes, which I didn't know.
I think it's yes. Your breath wasn't ever just awful unless you had garlic, which was just an untenable situation in the household.
And yours is a Y as well. Again, you weren't horrible, although I think it had to do with your stomach too. There were periods of
It would be bad.
where it would be a little worse than normal, but not anymore.
Sleep improved.
Mine, I'm going to say NA. I've talked about suffering from insomnia for 15 years, but after the adrenal burnout, that is not, it's just been a sporadic thing when I have sleep issues. Like it'll last for a week and then I'm fine. Okay. And that's always been the case since then.
I'm going to say yes, although that's very recent.
Yes, I'm so happy.
So we're fingers crossed that continues. Midday crashes reduced.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, had gotten better with giving up gluten, etc. But I still had the dip in the afternoon. And now, like I would schedule, since I work for myself, I could schedule most of my days so that I would avoid working in the afternoon because things would get a little less sharp. And now I don't really need to worry about that.
Well, I'm going to say yes.
Yeah.
It's obviously the case. Carb cravings reduced.
I would say yes, but let's put a lowercase y for me. I didn't have the intense cravings that other people in our household have, so I don't think I was up to that level. And I still, it's not like they're gone. They're reduced. I occasionally have them, but again, they're not... Mine have never been really, really chronic or acute.
Okay. I'm going to say kinda. I don't suffer the maddening craving for any specific carb. But my mind does go to carbs daily. It's like there's sort of like some unknown trigger goes, it'd be nice to have. And then I catch myself going, well, I'm not having that because it's not, one, in the house, but two, I'm just not doing that to myself. But I have not gotten to the never happening.
You know what I crave now, which I think is interesting, is nuts. I crave...
Oh, yeah?
When I have a craving now, it's often nuts. And just that, I think, makes mine a lowercase y, because it's not some crazy chocolate bar or something. I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
So we've gone through so much with you of the carnivore benefit matrix and how our experience has been different. And your experience certainly has been different than ours. There's certain things that we didn't even put on here, like eczema or psoriasis, that just don't relate to us because we didn't have those issues. That might be an issue for you. We love to hear what other benefits you've derived, or is there one of those benefits that seems so common and it just hasn't showed up for you yet?